Our story kicks off right in the middle of a freezing battlefield. Our MC, Ash, is standing his ground, totally surrounded by defeated soldiers and swords stuck in the ground, showing just how intense this fight really was. Right after that, a booming voice calls out his name, while the snow keeps falling heavy on the scene. Facing this mess, the imposing figure of Roderick shows up, asking Ash why he's even there. After all, he was supposed to be leading the Eastern Subjugation Force. Because of that, Ash, who's clearly beat up, shoots back a determined look and says his goal was actually to take down the guy talking to him, revealing some serious tension between these two. Roderick, staring Ash down, seems to weigh the kid's words while a red aura of power wraps around our MC. So, Ash raises his blood-stained sword and accuses Roderick of planning to use his squad as bait, only to toss them aside like trash afterward. Here, a close-up shows Ash's battle-worn face as he screams "Father," hinting at the complicated and painful relationship he has with Roderick. From there, Roderick confirms the accusation, stating that this was the only purpose for someone, wingless, calling him his foolish son. Ash's gaze fills with fury, and the narration reveals his full name, Ash A. Elmeme, dialing up the drama. Soon, the Elmeme family crest, a martial house that serves as protectors of royalty, appears majestically, representing the legacy and honor at stake. On the flip side, Roderick is seen sitting on a throne, reminding everyone that he is the sole holder of the 7 wings in that country, showing off his power and status. With that, a flashback takes us to an earlier moment where Roderick rescues Ash, who was near the end, in the middle of a blizzard, revealing a past built on gratitude. At that moment, Ash, hurt in the memory, reflects that he did everything to pay back this debt, dedicating himself completely to return the favor. However, in another flashback, our MC appears down and bruised while others make fun of him, showing cruel and disrespectful treatment. One of them provokes Ash, calling him a quingless brat with no crest, and our MC laments lacking the wings needed to prove his worth to his father. In Roderick's verse, we realize that the crest defines magical power, and the more wings, the stronger the person's magic. Our MC, the only one in the Duke's house without magic, was seen as defective because of it. So Ash, with a firm grip on his sword, remembers his siblings calling him wingless because he couldn't cast spells. Meanwhile, our MC worked his tail off, chopping wood and doing push-ups, believing his dedication would one day pay off and be rewarded. Because of that, Ash and 2 companions are patrolling a snow-covered forest, keeping guard in a hostile environment. Right after, our MC hides behind a tree, his yellow eyes glowing with focus as he senses imminent danger. From there, Ash sees several enemies popping up and asks if this is an ambush, realizing something bad is about to go down. Facing the situation, Ash confronts Roderick, expressing that he always believed and followed him until this moment, and asks if this is the answer he gets. With that, Roderick, with a cold stare, snaps back that a tool doesn't expect anything, and if Ash's role is over, he should just disappear. Here, a close-up reveals Ash's bloody face, looking shocked by his father's harsh words. At the same time, Ash gets thrown through the air, and even then, he still screams his father's name, showing his pain and confusion. Even injured, with his face covered in red, Ash still claims he really believed in Roderick, feeling the betrayal deep in his bones. So Ash is slammed into the snowy ground again, pitting himself, realizing how foolish he was to trust. Meanwhile, Roderick appears with a smile on his face and a trace of red on his chest. He was responsible for all his son's suffering. Right after, Ash is caught by energy chains, and 2 more opponents attack him without mercy, taking advantage of his vulnerability. Because of that, our MC gets hit by several blows, unable to defend himself, completely cornered by his attackers. Our MC screams in pain, red liquid running down his face while the red chains hold him tight. Right after, one of Ash's brothers mocks him, calling him slow and wingless, while he lies wounded in the snow. So the 3 brothers look down with cruel smiles, stating that our MC's miserable figure suited him perfectly. Here, Ash, lying on the ground, wonders why Roderick rescued him if he planned to discard him anyway. From there, Roderick crouches down and tells Ash not to kid himself, as he never had any use for him. At the same time, Roderick grabs Ash's hair with one hand, revealing his cruelty and contempt. With that, Roderick reveals that what he wanted was the power of the dead wings that lived inside our MC's body. Shocked and hurt, Ash, with wide eyes, wonders about these so-called 7 wings, mentioned by his father. Roderick comments that Ash's mother was very useful for his plans, with a look of pure coldness. So, the villain explains that our MC's mother gave birth to a seed, like him just for his benefit, with Ash still prostrate on the ground. Facing this, Ash reaches out desperately, begging Roderick to wait and explain what he was talking about. Because of that, Ash yells at Roderick, demanding answers, with anger and pain mixed in his gaze. Meanwhile, our MC's hand trembles from cold and weakness, feeling his life slipping away. Then, Ash wonders if he's going to end it all right there, and questions the reason for living so long, showing his despair. Further away, the image of a snow-covered church appears, a symbol of hope or perhaps a lost past. Our MC feels like he's in a place of pure whiteness and feels a slight sensation of warmth. With that, he wonders if this is the afterlife, then notices the snow falling around him. That moment, now as a baby, looks at the world with surprise, his eyes curious and alert. Facing the situation, he is being held by a blurry figure, realizing he is a baby. From there, RMC in his baby body widens his eyes and understands that this is reality. With that, he questions where on earth he could be looking around with confusion amidst the snow. Red Ash wonders if that tiny body was really his, feeling strange. He observes his own tiny hand in disbelief, realizing he is a real baby. Thus, Ash is in a woman's lap, and he wonders if she has passed away, noting her stillness. His baby eyes shine with determination, and he thinks, search, as if activating a skill. So, Ash in his adult form and on horseback, commands a search for the woman in the intense blizzard. At the same time, one of Roderick's soldiers states they must rescue the baby she took. Here, our MC, as a baby, lets out a smile, showing he might have understood something. Shocked, adult Ash wonders what he just heard and why they mentioned Duke Roderick. Finally, he floats as a baby, realizing that Duke Roderick is after him and questions if he is the baby they are looking for. Ash questions if he went back to the past but dismisses the idea as absurd, focusing on the baby in his arms. Then the baby stirs in the woman's arms, and Ash decides to check on that later. However, Ash realizes that if he stays there, he will certainly fall into the hands of the Duke's family. Because of that, baby Ash crawls in the snow, with his eyes shining in search of an exit. He understands he needs to flee as far as possible, using his strength to move. From there, baby Ash crawls in the snow, with his hands glowing in a desperate effort. He thinks to himself, crap. Feeling the difficulty breathing and the fatigue increasing. With that, Ash laments that his limbs are burning with heat, showing the difficulty of the situation. He predicts he'll have a life of crawling again, with a glimmer of determination in his eyes. Thus, Ash states to himself that he will survive, no matter what happens, showing his resilience. Looking at Roderick's image, Ash swears he will get revenge, his determination evident. Baby Ash crawls in the snow with glowing hands, and his will to live is unshakable. He continues crawling, leaving a trail in the snow, moving away from imminent danger. Right after, a girl appears and baby Ash observes her, noting her presence. The girl then calls her father, a man who introduces himself as being from the Viscount Tyrant family. The man, the girl's father, wonders why there would be a baby in such a frozen and dangerous place. Baby Ash snuggles into the man's embrace, showing trust and comfort. So Viscount Tyrant, still surprised, murmurs, "A baby," looking at the little one. He observes the trail in the snow and wonders if the baby crawled all that distance alone. With that, the Viscount holds Ash in his arms, thinking about how special that child is, in awe. Baby Ash is now in a crib and his eyes open, showing his consciousness. The Viscount wonders where he is, while baby Ash starts to stir. Figure, with wings and golden feather approaches, and our MC is enchanted by her. He thinks this child came to find him, looking like an angel, with shining eyes. Then baby Ash lets out a groan, moving in the crib, showing he is awake. Because of that, some girls crowd around Ash's crib, excited about the newly awake baby. The girl with white hair warns the others not to pranks on the baby, as they could hurt him. In the crib, wonders what the heck is happening, confused by the noisy situation. The white-haired girl holds Ash, who makes a face of disgust because the girls are squeezing him. So, Ash complains with the chef, and the girls get scared by his reaction. Annoyed, crawls away, and the girls chase him, laughing at the situation. With that, our MC wonders why they are running after him, not understanding the game. Baby Ash prepares to use some skill, with hands glowing with energy. His eyes shine intensely, concentrating force for the next move. So Ash thinks, I'm gonna fly, and a powerful jet of energy propels him upwards. He wonders if that is magic power, scared by the force he just released. Baby Ash loses control, realizing he is falling back to the ground. At the same time, Viscount Tyrant, the girl's father, catches him in the air, preventing his fall. He comments that it's strange for a child to fall from the sky, finding Ash a mysterious boy. Shocked, recognizes that man, his eyes wide with surprise. It was Duke Roderick's older brother, Viscount Tyrant, holding him in his arms. The scene shows the house of the other branch of the Elmheim family, imposing and rich. We see a portrait of Viscount Tyrant A. Elmheim, the current head of the family. He was known as one of the two wings that equaled Roderick, his younger brother. Recalls that Viscount Tyrant should have passed away in the Civil War a long time ago. Reflects on the ironic fate of trying to flee from Roderick and ending up being caught by his older brother. The red-headed woman holding Ash asks if he flew because he lost control of his magic power, suspecting he wasn't a normal baby. The woman then looks at our MC with a gentle smile on her face, showing a lot of affection for the little one. So, she comforts him, saying he must have been scared, but now he is completely safe in her arms. stares at her with a fixed and confused look, unable to fully understand her words. Meanwhile, Viscount Hyfried looks at the woman with a calm smile, perhaps of relief or gratitude. With his hand extended and glowing, the Viscount perceives the great power hidden within that child. The woman reveals the wing mark on Ash's arm, proving the innate magic he carries. Viscount Hyfried observes the mark intrigued, wondering if those are the legendary 7 wings. RMC, as a baby, wonders why this very special mark was on his own body. Here, Ash catches a glimpse of his shining eyes filled with fury and shock with a sudden understanding. Roderick's voice echoes in his mind, explaining that he needed the power of the 7 wings dwelling within Ash. A scene shows Roderick holding child Ash and another of him back in the frozen past, confirming a rescue. Ash understands that Roderick took him only to steal the 7 wings, mocking the nickname Wingless he gave him. Baby Ash, in the woman's arms, remains revolted, thinking about how Roderick dared to steal his own wings. With that, the woman, worried, asks Viscount Hyfried what he will do with the baby. Thinks the situation is bad, and he cannot allow his power to fall into the hands of the Elmemes. He reflects that he needs this power to get revenge on Roderick, showing his determination. Facing the situation, Viscount Hyfried decides to adopt him as his son, with a look of compassion. Here, baby Ash stares at him surprised, with his curious eyes attentive to the surroundings. The Viscount's hand approaches him, showing a gesture of affection and welcome. He pets Ash's head, stating that the child is like a fledgling that doesn't know how to fly alone yet. With that, Viscount Hyfried commits to taking care of Ash until the moment he decides to fly on his own. Ash's eyes shine with new determination, absorbing the Viscount's words. The children hide behind the furniture, and the woman finds them laughing at the situation. She asks if the girls were listening to the conversation, with a gentle, scolding tone. The girls reply they were just worried about the baby, with innocent expressions. Then, one of the girls asks her mother what the child's name was, curious. The woman responds with a, "Let me see," looking affectionately at Ash. She smiles while thinking of a name for the little one, who is now safe in her arms. The woman decides to call him Aster, a name representing a new star born in her home. 10 years pass, and time flies, showing the Hyfried family mansion and the movement in front of the gate. Here, a servant greets Viscount Hyfried, informing him that they were waiting, with respect. Young Ash steps out of the carriage, all grown up and, well, dressed following the Viscount. He wears an elegant suit with a sword at his waist, showing himself ready for the event. Aster helps his older sister Alphen get out of the carriage, asking her to be careful. Alphen thanks Aster for his kindness, with a warm smile, and an angelic aura of a child appears above Alphen. The 2 siblings head to the mansion, ready to participate in the event, side by side. Alphen walks down the street, followed closely by Aster, with elegance and posture. The Sword Dance Festival is an annual event for military nobles, where families show off their hairs. Young swordsmen, carrying their families' names, gather for the festival. So, the Viscount Hyfried family arrives, and people whisper about them, with curiosity. They comment that the family adopted a boy of unknown origin to replace the heirs they never had. Other people with red eyes wonder how far the Hyfried family intends to disgrace the Elmheim name. Aster turns around, hearing the murmurs, and realizes they are talking about him. Alphen looks at Aster and advises him not to get shaken by the gossip, showing her concern. She warns that in this place, the weak are the first to be crushed, with her hand squeezed tight. Next to Alphen, remains calm and confident, with a determined look. Viscount Hyfried explains that this is the current position of the Viscount family, with Aster observing him. The Viscount wanted Aster to see the reality of the family while they approached the Grand Mansion. He asks Aster if he was disappointed with the situation, looking for his reaction. RMC smiles and replies that he isn't disappointed, stating that this level of coldness was perfect for him. Viscount Hyfried laughs, relieved with Aster's answer, demonstrating trust in the young man. Aster remembers his past life, where he made a terrible social debut, being the disgrace of the Elmheim family. He walks with a golden aura, different from before, because the 7 wings have returned to his body. Aster's eyes shine with power, showing his transformation and determination. The 3 head towards the mansion, with Viscount Hyfried, Aster, and Alphen ready for the festival. 2 young men look out the window with expressions of contempt, observing the arrival of the Hyfried family. Aster, with a confident look, shows himself unshaken by the stares and whispers of others. The trio continues advancing, with Aster in the middle, ready for whatever comes at the Sword Dance Festival. Aster smiles with confidence, ready to make a spectacular social debut and leave everyone shocked. The festival arena is packed, where knights hold absolute power in an era of glory. Knights face each other, showing their strength and splendor, requirements for the elite. Their strength came from fencing, the art of the sword they mastered. Splendor was their fame, the reputation they built with their victories and deeds. 2 knights face each other in an intense duel, their swords glistening with every strike. The image shows the absolute symbol representing strength and splendor, the crest of wings. One of the knights kneels defeated, while the winner shows off his magic power. The crest of wings was the absolute symbol representing both strength and splendor. In a close-up of the knight's hand, we see the wing crest shining, showing his power. Aster, next to Viscount Hayfried and Alphen, comments that the place is as incredible as always. Two girls complain, saying it's no wonder Sister's friend and Flare didn't want to come. Aster sees his ghost from the past, being humiliated by his brothers, which makes him irritated. The scene shows young Ash, humiliated on the ground, while one of his brothers watches him with disdain. Alphen calls Aster, worried about his expression, noticing the change in his face. Alphen asks Aster if he is nervous. After all, it is his first sword dance festival. Aster smiles and replies that he isn't as nervous as she thinks, and actually he feels nostalgic. Alphen looks at Aster with a question mark above her head, not understanding the answer. Here, Viscount Hayfried says he needs to go to a meeting and asks Aster to take care of Alphen. The Alphen yells for her dad to wait, reminding him she is a year older than Aster, indignant. Aster smiles and jokes that Alphen is a bit absent-minded, laughing at the situation. Viscount Hayfried explains that there are many young people Alphen's age there, and she should take the chance to make new connections. He warns Aster to ensure the secret of the 7 wings isn't discovered, with a serious look. Alphen, pouting, laments having received the task of making connections, but the surrounding hostility makes it hard. Aster notices the hostile looks, thinking it's impossible to socialize with so much enmity. Close-up reveals Aster's determined look, ready to face the challenges. Alphen calls him, asking where he is going, worried about his impulsive attitude. Aster replies he is going to make friends, with a confident smile on his face. He approaches a group of young nobles, one sitting on a sofa and another standing. One of the young men sitting asks Aster who he is, with a challenging tone. Aster, with a smile, introduces himself as Aster F. Elmheim, their younger brother. One of the young men watches him with suspicion, showing no sympathy. Aster explains he saw him outside and decided to come say hi, being very direct. Dailies, irritated, asks Grine if he is the adopted kid from the Viscount family. Dailies understands and smiles maliciously, thinking that's why Ash can use the name F shamelessly. Aster sees Dailies and Grine, the 2 legitimate sons of the Elmheim family, who ended him in his past life. He thinks that before they seemed terrifying, but now they are like adults playing pretend. Aster then concentrates with his eyes shining an intense yellow. Alphen approaches, pulling Aster by the arm, saying he already did his greetings and they can go. Dailies calls Alphen, surprised she is there too, with a smug smile. He provokes Alphen, asking if she doesn't need to hide behind her father today, like usual. Dailies demands Alphen join them, as it was an order from the main house, with an authoritarian tone. Alphen stays silent for a moment with an irritated and determined face. She refuses the order, stating there is no master-servant relationship between the main house and the branch. Aster grabs Alphen, asking her to wait, realizing the situation was heating up. Dailies grabs Alphen's wrist, stating he hasn't finished talking to her, with arrogance. Aster watches the scene with a serious look, keeping calm, but fully attentive. Dailies smiles maliciously, asking if Alphen knows a certain story. He walks with Alphen through the hall, while she moves away from Aster, looking down. Dailies reveals that Alphen's father had his arm cut off by Roderick to take responsibility for failing to protect the king. He continues, saying he feels happy not to have a loser's blood running in his veins. Furious, demands Dailies take back what he said, her voice full of anger. She confronts Dailies, stating she won't let him badmouth her father, with determination. Dailies provokes Alphen, saying that from her father only incompetent women are born who cannot inherit a title, and that he must have been disappointed. Cruel smile, Dailies throws the liquid from his glass onto Alphen's face, saying this isn't a ballroom. He suggests next time she wears rags, so she won't care if she gets wet, humiliating her. Aster, watching the scene from afar, feels the tension rise as memories of the past return. He thought maybe he wouldn't feel angry seeing their faces again, after so long. Grelly have fun with Alphen's humiliation, toasting with wine, not caring. Aster watches Alphen, who has a wet face and an expression of anger, but he feels a strange satisfaction. But Aster can't hold back and launches Dailies into the air, with anger coming from the bottom of his soul. Here, Dailies gets furious and grabs a wine bottle to attack our MC, wanting to strike back for the aggression. At the same time, Dailies tries to hit Aster with the bottle, while our MC easily dodges the guy's blows. However, Aster is quick and kicks the bottle into his rival's head, making the wine splash all over Dailies' face. With the opponent stunned, Aster looks at Dailies and the other guys, with Grain shouting, "Brother," shocked by the scene he saw. After everything, our MC wipes his lips and asks if Dailies thought that was grape juice, with a mocking tone. Being so, Aster smiles and thinks that attitude was perfect for a spoiled noble, completing his humiliation. Meanwhile, a flashback takes us 3 years back, with Aster using his power and someone yelling for him to control himself. Alphen, very tearful, holds another injured girl and asks if Aster intended to end his own sisters, calling one of them Kudryavka. Here, Alphen and the other girl are cornered, and one of them screams for the other to stay with her, trying to protect her. From there, Aster releases the power of the 7 wings with a golden and destructive aura, scaring everyone around. Facing the situation, Viscount Hayfried wonders if that power could really be controlled by RMC. Because of that, Aster, with golden eyes and a powerful aura, demonstrates great magical power hidden inside him. Back to the present. A servant runs desperately and yells to Viscount Hayfried that there was an emergency, scaring everyone. The Viscount questions him, annoyed at being interrupted in the middle of an important meeting, and the servants are stuttering without being able to explain. The sons of the main Elmium house and the branch started a duel, and this news shocked everyone in the meeting. Here, Viscount Hayfried and Duke Roderick exchange surprised looks, not understanding the situation. Facing this, the Viscount stands up suddenly with an angry face, feeling the atmosphere get tense. Distressed, Alphen runs to her father, and he asks what on earth is going on there, completely confused. The Viscount then points and says to look at what is happening, and Dales appears with a smile on his face. In the fighting hall, a family brawl is happening among the Elmheims, something no one saw every day. Viscount Hayfried, Alphen, and Gryan watch from above, and the result of the fight could change everything. A mustached man looks worried, while Gryan stands next to him, serious about the situation. Dales smiles with red eyes and says the Sword Dance Festival is going to get crazy. One of the young men from the main house with red hair calls Aster a fool for fighting the Duke's house. Haired guy raises his sword and shows his 4-wing crest, quite the power. With an evil smile, the duelist challenges him to show his crest, or maybe he was ashamed. For RMC, with his back turned, hears the insult and says displaying a mere drawing is ridiculous and embarrassing. RMC smiles and says he would never stoop to doing something so silly, leaving the opponent irritated. So the red-haired guy gets furious, his eyes glowing a shade of red with pure rage. But Aster can't hold back and launches Dales into the air, with anger coming from the bottom of his soul. Here, Dales gets furious and grabs a wine bottle to attack RMC, wanting to strike back for the aggression. At the same time, Dales tries to hit Aster with the bottle, and RMC easily dodges the guy's blows. However, Aster is quick and kicks the bottle into his rival's head, making the wine splash all over Dales' face. With the opponent stunned, Aster looks at Dales and the other guys, with Gryan shouting, "Brother!" Shocked by the scene he saw. After everything, our MC wipes his lid, asks if Dales thought that was grape juice, with a mocking tone. Being so, Aster smiles and thinks that attitude was perfect for a spoiled noble, completing his humiliation. Meanwhile, a flashback takes us 3 years back, with Aster using his power, and someone yelling for him to control himself. Alphen, very cheerful, holds another injured girl and asks if Aster intended to end his own sisters, calling one of them Kudryavka. Here, Alphen and the other girl are cornered, and one of them screams for the other to stay with her, trying to protect her. From there, Aster releases the power of the 7 wings, with a golden and destructive aura, scaring everyone around. Facing the situation, Viscount Hayfried wonders if that power could really be controlled by RMC. Because of that, Aster, with golden eyes and a powerful aura, demonstrates great magical power hidden inside him. At this moment, Dales is on the ground, and Aster stares at him, demanding he fight for real. In turn, Aster tells Dales to show his true power, with a voice full of challenge. Viscount Hayfried then smiles, commenting that the fight seems decided. Watching attentively, Aster, with a focused look, readies his sword, glowing with blue energy, ready to attack. Facing this, Dales and RMC exchange fierce blows, and energy spreads through the hall. Dales is shocked, eyes wide, not understanding what was happening because Aster was too strong. In turn, Aster, with a scornful smile, states Dales talks too much, mocking the opponent. Aster then jumps and hits Dales with a strike, using powerful golden energy. RMC stands firm, sword glowing intense yellow, ready for the next move. Aster thinks he trained for 10 years in secret, learning to master his magic power, and waited a long time for revenge. Aster's eyes shine intensely, and he lifts his sword, releasing a powerful golden aura. He attacks Dales with a devastating blow, launching a wave of energy that hits him squarely. Dales then groans in pain, being pushed back by the force of Aster's attack, unable to hold on. Gryan, with a shocked expression, realizes his brother is being dominated, and his worry is evident. Dales is pushed with force, and Gryan wonders if his brother is really being pressured by the attack. Dales screams in pain, face scared, not understanding how a 4 wings like him was losing. Aster, with a fixed and determined gaze, continues to deal blows to Dales, his sword glowing. Viscount Hayfried then smiles, commenting that the fight seems decided, watching attentively. Aster, with a focused look, readies his sword, glowing with blue energy, ready to attack. Facing this, Dales and RMC exchange fierce blows, and energy spreads through the hall. Dales is shocked, eyes wide, not understanding what was happening, because Aster was too strong. In turn, Aster, with a scornful smile, states Dales talks too much, mocking the opponent. Aster then jumps and hits Dales with a strike, using powerful golden energy. Our MC stands firm, sword glowing intense yellow, ready for the next move. Aster thinks he trained for 10 years in secret, learning to master his magic power, and waited a long time for revenge. Aster's eyes shine intensely, and he lifts his sword, releasing a powerful golden aura. He attacks Dalis with a devastating blow, launching a wave of energy that hits him squarely. Dalis then groans in pain, being pushed back by the force of Aster's attack, unable to hold on. Grine, with a shocked expression, realizes his brother is being dominated, and his worry is evident. Dalis is pushed with force, and Grine wonders if his brother is really being pressured by the attack. Dalis screams in pain, face scared, not understanding how a four wings like him was losing. Aster, with a fixed and determined gaze, continues to deal blows to Dalis, his sword glowing. Aster now thinks he isn't that wingless Ash from before. With that, our MC smiles, knowing this is enough to soothe him for now. His eyes shine with a red aura of power, showing his fury and determination. Aster then sees Roderick and others on the balcony, watching the fight from afar. The protagonist feels the anger inside him, knowing Roderick is nearby. The imposing figure of Roderick appears, and Aster stares at him with a look of pure fury. Cream, our MC, calls for Roderick, challenging him with his gaze. Then, others comment shocked that the youngest son of the Tyrant family defeated the heir of the main house. However, the situation is bad, and the character who had his reputation crushed won't stay quiet. The head of the main Elmeme house appears. He was a strong and imposing man. Dalis then stands up, showing an arrogant smile, even after being defeated. Aster stares at him, sword pointed at the ground, with a serious look full of power. Roderick, in turn, looks at the scene with an air of contempt, judging his son. Eyes glowing red, keeps a fixed gaze on his father. Duke Roderick A. Elmeme then appears walking in the hall, ready to face Aster. Sneelim screams "Father!" catching Roderick's attention. He points to our MC, accusing him of being the bastard who challenged the main house. Roderick, with a furious look, is begged by Dalis to use his power and punish Aster. Facing the request, Roderick crushes Dalis' hand into the ground with force and brutality. With a face of terror, screams in pain while his red liquid spreads. Gray and other nobles are shocked seeing the scene, unable to believe the violence. Roderick then grabs his sword, questioning why a loser is begging foolishly. He states Dalis dragged the family name through the mud, humiliating him even more. A man who cannot take revenge, Roderick completes, has no right to hold a sword. With the punishment finished, the scene shows the beauty of the hall, with an elegant chandelier. Aster, with a determined look, stares at his father, ready for the next move. He then asks Roderick what his father was doing, challenging his attitude. Aster then says his cousin hasn't apologized to his sister Alphen yet. Our MC asks his uncle to save the punishment for after the apology. Roderick, with a purple aura of anger, asks if he thinks he is an Elmeme, just because he was adopted by Hyfried. Aster then states he is the son of a viscount, showing his position. He explains that, regardless of blood ties, he was taught about a knight's pride and the weight of succession by his adoptive father. Roderick stays silent, observing the protagonist with a look of pure fury. The Duke then points the sword at Aster, stating the son of a viscount hurt the main house. Roderick reminds him he is the peak of the 12,000 knights and the king's pride, showing his power. Viscount Hayfried, arms crossed, watches the scene, thinking this can't be resolved like a childish squabble. Another viscount comments that Roderick needs to understand the situation too. A blue-haired figure just watches from afar, with a mocking smile on his face. Viscount Hyfried then recalls that Dalis' father offered an arm as a price for his disloyalty. With Roderick's sword right near Aster's face, he asks what the protagonist is going to offer. Respectfully, addresses his uncle, keeping calm in the tense situation. Our MC then explains that it wasn't a fight between brothers, but a formal duel. He says he only responded with his sword to the insults made to the Viscount family, showing his honor. Aster quotes Roderick's own words, "Who cannot get revenge has no right to a sword." He completes, saying he has no intention of losing a single finger, challenging his father with determination. Roderick then stares at our MC and agrees, with a slight smile, having understood the kid's audacity. The Duke orders Aster to assume his stance, voice firm, preparing for the fight. Our MC, surprised, prepares for combat, holding his sword firm, attentive to his father's movements. His eyes widen with the intensity of Roderick's aura, realizing the imminent danger. Roderick attacks with everything, and his sword smashes the ground, kicking up a curtain of debris with the blow. Alphen, scared, covers her mouth with her hands, eyes full of tears, worried about her brother. Facing the scene, Viscount Hayfried yells Roderick's name, showing his fury and disapproval of the attitude. From there, the Viscount leaps into the air, attacking Roderick with his sword, trying to stop him. The swords of the two men clash with force, creating a flash in the hall, showing the power of the collision. Viscount Hayfried continues attacking, forcing Roderick to retreat with a series of fast and powerful blows. He then yells for Aster, asking if he's okay, voice full of concern and affection. The floor is all broken, and pieces of ice spread through the hall, showing the destruction of the fight. Viscount Hyfried looks shocked at the ground, eyes wide, unable to believe what he sees. Aster, fallen and injured on the ground, face bleeding, has his eyes glowing in pure fury and determination. His eyes emanate a golden power, and he won't give up, even with the pain evident on his face. Roderick then decides the punishment will be severe and without mercy. And with that, he goes down the stairs and dallies on the ground, watches with a smile, satisfied with the punishment to come. Viscount Hyfried then calls for Aster, scolding him for his action. The Viscount grabs our MC, worried about what his brother would do to him. Our MC, with a bloody face, tells his father he protected the promise and everything else, showing his loyalty. The Viscount then praises our MC, saying he was magnificent, despite the injuries. Roderick continues down the stairs, not caring about the fight between his sons, with dallies following close behind. Meanwhile, Viscount Hyfried comments that was an immature move by Roderick, disagreeing with his brother. Another noble argues the main house's reputation would be ruined if they let a child do whatever he wanted. The noble also thinks that was a good moment for Aster, who is facing Roderick. Aster, with a determined look and no fear, stares at Roderick, ready to survive this challenge and become a rising star. A noble comments that, for the boy, it's the perfect social debut. Viscount Hyfried confesses he was terrified, thinking Roderick would split Aster in half right there. However, Roderick thinks the era of revolt is approaching, and a storm strong enough to split the world in 2 or 3 is imminent. Scared, grabs Aster and the Viscount, worried about the uncertain future. One of the men praises Aster, saying he is brilliant and has incredible talent. Aster then looks up with a confused expression, hearing the man's words. The man continues praising RMC, saying he is only 10 years old, and that is scary. Another man agrees, commenting Aster is more emphatic in his training after returning from the festival. He thinks it must have been a good stimulus for the boy, seeing his progress. A third man recalls that our MC defeated Duke Roderick's third son, a huge feat. He states they swallowed many bitter pills from the main house, so Aster's story is refreshing. RMC then runs with a staff in hand, training hard. He thinks that, with Viscount Hyfried supporting him, the Elmheim main house name must diminish a bit. But Aster's true target is, ultimately, the Elmheim family. He continues training, wanting to test his true strength. Aster then attacks a man with his staff, showing his agility and power. The protagonist thinks he wanted to test his power more in that place. However, the way he is now, he cannot defeat Roderick. For him, the wing crest is just an indicator of the crank, of hidden magic power. Aster is then scolded for making a scene again, as he is always fighting. Alphen approaches with a smile, asking if our MC doesn't know the meaning of moderation, and that father is calling him. Our MC replies he understood and will go immediately, while Alphen takes the staff he was holding. Aster then notices Alphen's outfit with a look of surprise, seeing her in training clothes. Alphen turns around with a smile, not understanding his reaction. Aster comments that is rare, since she said she wouldn't wear those clothes because they weren't cute. Alphen explains balance is important in everything, and seeing our MC, she thought she couldn't stay still. Aster is surprised, and Alphen smiles at him. Alphen then addresses Aster, saying when he gets back, he will have to keep her company for a good while, so they can train together. RMC smiles at his sister, happy with the training proposal. Aster tells her to go easy, and then Alphen and RMC start training together. Here, Aster approaches the door of Viscount Hyfried's room and knocks. He asks for permission, and the Viscount is sitting, waiting for him. Aster asks his father what he needed, with a respectful tone. Viscount Hyfried then invites him to sit, with a welcoming smile on his face. The Viscount then asks if it's already been 10 years since they welcomed RMC into their home, thoughtful. He confesses he thought about waiting until Aster was more grown up, but the situation calls for speed. The Viscount takes out a ring with a red stone, which intrigues RMC. The Viscount looks at Aster and reveals that ring is the proof of the successor, something of great importance. RMC looks at the ring, eyes glowing gold, unable to express anything. Aster and the Viscount are sitting at the table, and he explains the Viscount house is in a delicate position. He reminds him they are still a branch house but carry the burden of the Elmheim family name. The Viscount continues, saying they are lords with a territory to protect and cannot leave the post empty. He asks our MC if the sisters were convinced with the decision. The Viscount replies that the sisters, who are at the Knight Academy, return in 3 days. He intends to talk to everyone at that moment, including the sisters. Aster remembers Malfa and Kudo, and fears the two won't be happy with the news. He thinks Kudo, in particular, must be very mad. The Viscount thinks Kudo hates Aster because he was born male and blessed with the 7 wings. RMC then reflects he cannot accept the ring, as he still can't control his magic power. Aster then thinks he has no confidence to convince a sister who already attacked him. Viscount Hyfried observes him with a smile, as if knowing what the boy is thinking. He comments he has doubted for a long time if Aster is really a child, due to his maturity. The Viscount reveals he intended to give the ring as a reward for the sword dance festival. Takes out a wooden box and our MC watches him, curious. Surprised, wonders what that is, eyes wide with curiosity. Presents the demon sword Graham, a legendary magic sword. It is capable of containing the power of the 7 wings, which is why it is known as the magic devouring sword. The Viscount takes Aster to a more secluded place in the forest to test the sword. Our MC asks if the dojo wouldn't be enough if Dad just wanted to show a sword. The Viscount replies this is a precaution because Aster has a habit of destroying things, remembering a flashback. He explains the demon sword Graham is a legendary blade passed only to the eldest son of the Elmheim family. The Viscount says he brought it from the main house specifically for our MC. Aster then, shocked, wonders if that is a sword, eyes wide. The Viscount explains the sword has no physical blade and Aster must pour his magic into it, making the sword glow. The Viscount explains Graham is a blade of possibilities, completed by the user's magic. Aster releases the magic and the sword glows red, showing its power. A circle of energy forms, pushing away the surrounding leaves with the force of the magic. The Viscount warns that if the magic is insufficient, the sword can drain him completely. He then asks if Aster wants to try, and RMC stares at the sword with determination. RMC Graham ready to use it, hands firm on the hilt. He thinks about his magic in the sword, concentrating all his power into it. A huge wave of energy is released, and Aster wonders what that is, shocked. He then realizes his magic is flowing into the sword on its own. A wave of energy rises to the skies, leaving a trail in the blue sky. A guard asks, shocked, what that light was and if a comet fell. The other guard corrects him, saying it's the opposite, and something was launched into the sky. Alphen, with a smile on her face, realizes that must be our MC training. Aster, with a smile, comments that this is an incredible sword. But Viscount Hyfried says what's most incredible is Aster's own power. Viscount Hyfried explains that the most incredible thing is our MC's power. He continues, saying Aster possesses the 7-wing crest, something unheard of in the entire history of the Elmheim lineage. If our MC masters this power, he will surpass Roderick and the Viscount himself, even though both are 6 wings. Aster then stares at Roderick's image and wonders if he will surpass him. However, the Viscount warns that excessive power always plants seeds of conflict. If they know Aster has the 7 wings, many will envy and resin him. The Viscount warns that some will try to use him, while others will try to eliminate him. He then extends his hand to our MC, worried about the future. The Viscount advises Aster to get stronger while he still can, so he won't regret his powerlessness. Aster then shakes the Viscount's hand, saying he won't live a miserable life like the previous one. He thanks his father, showing his gratitude for the help and trust. Aster swears he will make the 7 wings and the sword his own. 3 days later, the Viscount, his wife, and Alphen welcome the 2 sisters who returned home. Kudryavka appears with Sister Malfa behind her and announces her return in a cheerful tone. The other sister, Malfa, coughs, hiding her suspicion about the reunion. Kudryavka smiles and spreads her arms, calling her little sisters for a reunion hug. However, the 2 girls ignore her and hug Malfa, leaving Kudryavka's side. Surpryavka asks where her hug is, not understanding the snub. The sisters reply that Sister Kudryavka always messes up their hair. That's why they didn't hug her. Kudryavka, indignant, denies it, saying she mastered chivalry and would never be clumsy. Kudryavka notices Alphen watching the scene with a discreet smile. Kudryavka jumps on Alphen, asking if she was a good girl, with a tight hug. Alphen, suffocated, wonders why Kudryavka is chasing her, not understanding her sister. Then asks where Ash is, looking around, searching for her brother. Viscount Hyfried then replies that our MC is busy training. Kudryavka looks at Alphen with a serious look, suspicious of something. Meanwhile, a huge explosion of red magic hits the ground, coming from the forest. Aster is panting, exhausted from training, but still standing, determined to continue. Irritated, he wonders if that is the best he can do, unsatisfied with his performance. Our MC thinks that even though he can form the blade with magic, just suppressing it drains him completely. Aster, with a wind shield around him, wonders what he needs to do to be like his father. Kudryavka appears, complaining that our MC is making a mess around there. Aster, surprised, asks if Sister Kudryavka is already back, unable to believe her presence. Wyvyavka MC didn't show up to greet her, finding him cold. She, with an ironic smile, asks if he is so special now that he can't even see her. Kudryavka comments she heard about Aster's performance at the Sword Dance Festival and that the Knight Academy is full of rumors about him. Father must be proud of our MC. Aster replies she has no room to talk, since she has been on several missions, even being just an apprentice. Kudryavka then shows her brooch, an honorary knight badge only she received this year. She states that if she didn't do so much, she wouldn't be worthy of succeeding father. Aster stays silent, not knowing what to say about his sister, with Daliz in his mind. Kudryavka asks if he refused the succession, thinking he was doing her a favor, with an irritated look. Our MC thinks father told her, and it's a pain to deal with this. Aster replies it wasn't his intention. and he just felt he wasn't qualified. Kudryavka then attacks him with her sword, releasing a blue light magic power. Aster dodges the attack and wonders why his sister did that, shocked by the aggression. Kudryavka then tells Aster to get ready, because she is going to do a little test with him. With a challenging smile, she warns next time she's coming for real. Aster asks his sister to wait, explaining his sword is still incomplete. Kudryavka asks if he will give the same excuse to enemies on the battlefield with a serious look. Aster, surprised, thinks about the word to enemies, realizing his sister's seriousness. Kudryavka reminds him the first rule of chivalry is to always be ready for battle. She warns that if Aster keeps holding back, she might end up crushing him. Our MC thinks his sister isn't joking, but he is already at his limit, just controlling his magic. However, he has no choice, and if he doesn't fight back, she will really crush him. Aster stares at his sister, who attacks him with an energy sword, and he thinks she is going to end him. The scene unfolds in a forest where an intense battle is happening with sparks flying everywhere. Facing this, Kudo comments that our MC's sword skills are still sharp and he can keep up with her techniques. She immediately wonders what the heck that fake-looking sword he was using to defend himself was. Because of that, Kudo yells that our MC's mana control is absolute trash while pushing him back. Our MC, with his eyes glowing yellow, thinks she is as ruthless as she always was. He reflects she has always been like this since they were kids. A flashback reveals she always hated him because he was the only boy in the family with inheritance rights. Besides that, our MC had the special wing mark that surpassed everyone else in the house. So, she kept challenging him for any little thing, calling it unfair, a true hurricane sister. Honestly, for him, she is his worst nightmare, and the fight in the forest continues intense. Kudo then thinks, just as I thought, Aster, with a focused and determined look. She releases a powerful wave of blue energy, charging at our MC with everything. In a scream of fury, she declares he is not worthy of being the next head of the family. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Alphen asks her father if it was right to leave the two alone. She warns that in the worst case, one of them might not survive this sibling fight. Viscount Hayfried replies the two are good rivals and despite being reckless, things won't go that far. With a worried look, Alphen replies she hopes so because she has a bad feeling about this. She then asks her father why he called them back from the academy and that it can't be just for the successor. The Viscount denies it and starts taking something out of a drawer, leaving the girl even more curious. Seeing what he picks up, the girl is shocked and wonders what on earth that is. Her father reveals it is an official summons from the main Elmium family, an unexpected call. Apparently, the old folks at the top of the main house finally want to see their grandson's face. Facing this, Alphen understands the situation is definitely serious and gets very worried. The Viscount, with a grave look, says that in the worst case, something terrible could happen. They might end up losing our MC to the other family, which would be a disaster. Back to the fight, Aster yells that this is absurd, and he already refused to be the successor. Kudo charges with everything, yelling that it is exactly this kind of attitude they hate about him. Our MC blocks the blow but feels the immense weight of his sister's attack. He thinks it's like fighting a monster with a giant hammer. She is that strong. Even so, he holds the sword gram tight, glowing with intense red power. Our MC and Kudo trade a powerful blow and the force of the impact creates a big shockwave. With a firm look, he says she finally stopped going easy on him, showing his determination. Kudo, irritated, shoots back saying he just ran away from her direct confrontation without the guts to face her. The force of the clash between them creates a wave of destruction, raising dust and debris everywhere. Our MC can barely hold on and comments surprised about his sister's raw power. Kudo explains that just swinging a sword makes you a third-rate fighter, something mediocre. She continues saying using mana classifies you as a second-rate fighter, a bit better. But mastering the sword demon is what makes you a first-class fighter, the true top. With a look of disappointment, she says he is a big letdown, which makes him irritated. Here, the difference in wing marks shows the exact difference in mana each one can use. She then explains her 5 wings are 2 full levels below his 7 wings. And even with all that advantage, he dodges a direct power confrontation and goes back to his tricks. With a provocative smile, she asks if he really has no confidence in his own strength. She provokes him even more, asking if he is still afraid of losing control, like 3 years ago. Shocked by the provocation, our MC wonders if he is afraid of his 7-wing power. He had never thought about that and wonders if he was subconsciously holding back his own power. The reason why the sword seemed so unstable was because he was forcing his mana down. Kudo then screams that our MC has everything she always wanted, with a blue aura around her. She continues saying if he is gonna waste that luck, acting arrogant and blind. Though with that, the girl charges with everything, yelling for him to hand over all that power to her. Our MC then prepares for the blow with a serious look focused on his sword. A gigantic explosion of energy happens when the two swords meet with full force. Is he shocked because Kudo managed to block his full force blow? With a smile, he thanks his sister because his eyes finally open to his true power. From there, he advances without even covering the blade with mana, which leaves Kudo confused. She wonders if he ran out of mana but soon dismisses the idea as something impossible. RMC's sword starts to glow, releasing the infinite mana of his 7 wings. Even without total control, he decides to throw all his mana into a single devastating attack. Kudo smiles sideways, realizing even a guy like him finally understood something. RMC reflects on the second chance he grabbed in life, showing his new determination. RMC states he won't throw away this power, and the 7-wing mark shines on his back. He thinks this sword and this family are things he never managed to get before, no matter how hard he fought. Kudo gets confused with the change in attitude and the word he used, wondering what second would be. Because of that, our MC releases a wave of red energy with his sword charging against her. With his eyes glowing an intense yellow, he attacks with a fury he never demonstrated before. The sister is shocked, seeing the red energy blade coming towards her without time to react. He screams for her to get out of his way while the two swords clash with incredible force. The red energy wraps around his body, and he decides he won't hold back anymore from now on. Kudo's eye reflects the red energy, and she realizes how serious her brother is talking. Being so, our MC becomes a blur of red energy and attacks with all his power.